Wasted food is wasted money. So one habit I've gotten into is freezing just about everything. Whether it be leftover portions of the meals I've created or leftover ingredients like this tomato paste. And one way I determine whether or not it can be frozen is I ask myself, can I find this in the freezer aisle in the grocery store? Because if they can freeze it, I can probably freeze it too. So I actually get a lot of inspiration from the freezer aisle for my recipes. I look at these pre-made meals, I try to recreate them at home. I freeze them in single serving portions so they're just as convenient as the prepackaged meal to reheat when I have a busy night. By freezing the leftover portions of the meals that I cook, I build up a stockpile of ready to reheat meals in my freezer that are basically like TV dinners that I made, so they're healthier and less expensive. I especially love using the freezer technique for expensive ingredients like meat and cheeses, so that really helps me take advantage of sales at the store. If a meat is on special that week but it wasn't in my recipe plan, I can save it for later in the freezer. Another great way to save money on meat is to buy a larger pack at once instead of individual portions. They're going to be priced lower per pound. As soon as I get home from the grocery store, I divide it up and freeze it into single recipe portions. That way, I have exactly the amount I need for recipes later, but I didn't have to buy it one chicken breast at a time. I love freezing my leftover cheese because cheese can be really expensive, but it does add a lot to a meal. Shredded cheese freezes great, as does the block, but I like to buy these really large bags of shredded cheese, divide it up into 2-cup portions so that it's just like the smaller bags, and pop those in my freezer so they're there whenever I need them. Not every food is a good candidate for freezing. So if you have fresh vegetables that are really high in water content like tomatoes, lettuce, celery, those don't always freeze so well because the ice crystals that form in the vegetables as it freezes can cause them to be limp after they thaw. When you're freezing your leftovers, it's really important to label and date everything because it's so easy for food to just get lost in the back of the freezer and then you have no idea what it even is. It's really important to portion them out into units that you would use in a recipe because once it's frozen solid, you don't want to have to thaw the entire block or the entire portion just to get a little bit to use in a recipe. If you have extra ice cube trays, that's a really easy way to pre-portion your ingredients. Like if you make a batch of pesto and don't use it all for your dinner that night, scoop it into your ice cube tray to have single serving portions, pop it in the freezer. Once solid, transfer it to an airtight freezer container. You want to make sure that your frozen goods are wrapped really tight and kept in an airtight container because that's going to prevent moisture loss in the ingredients and a degradation of quality over time. Freezer safe containers come in all shapes and sizes, and I also like to do soups and sauces in bags because they freeze flat, and then once they're solid you can stack them flat or stack them vertically, and it's a real space saver in your freezer. And when you use your freezer as much as I do, you need as much space as possible. So if you find yourself about to throw away your leftovers, stop for a second and ask yourself if that can be frozen for later.